Q&A part in the bottom right of WebEx, and we'll move on to the codes administration. And first I'll ask whoever's leading that on behalf of the department, Mr. Herbert, I assume, to unmute and say hi. Mr. Herbert?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me okay?
I can. Thanks for being here. I think you know the ground rules. We're assuming council members have read the budget book materials and what you all sent to response to the council questions. And we're going to have 15 minutes, so we're going to go to 5:15 at the latest. And if you want to start with a opening comment, then we'll turn to questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I have with me here today Roy Jones, Wade Hill, Emily Lamb, and Bill Penn. And let me start off by saying that the Codes Department can operate within the mayor's proposed budget. You can see our mission statement within your documents, but in short, here's what we do. We issue construction and use-related permits, and we perform safety-related inspections. More specifically, we administer and enforce Title 16 of the Metropolitan Code relating to buildings and construction. We also administer and enforce Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code, which is the zoning code. For the current fiscal year, I'd like to provide some projections as to how this department will finish out FY20 with some specific data related to the fiscal effects of COVID-19. Since COVID, the Codes Department has remained fully operational, though we've modified some of our processes for the safety of our employees and for the safety of the general public. On the expense side, our expenses will come in under budget for the current fiscal year. On the revenue side, effective March 1, we increased building permit revenue by approximately 8%. By adopting the latest cost of construction values established by the International Code Council. For the current FY20 fiscal year, we anticipate that the department's revenues will exceed our expenses by over $12 million. For FY20, we project that we will issue approximately 12,000 building permits, which is more than we issued under FY19 or under FY18. We further project that the value of those permits, which really is the construction value, through the end of the fiscal year will be the highest ever in the history of the metropolitan government, exceeding $4.35 billion. For reference, in FY19, the construction value came in at $4.21 billion, and in FY18, the construction value came in at $3.61 billion. Provide a snapshot of where we stand now due to COVID-19, I've selected the date of March 1 to provide subsequent data points. March 1 represents the date that immediately precedes the tornado and the effects of COVID. From March 1 to date, the average number of building permits that we issue on a weekly basis is down about 10% compared to the average number issued prior to March 1. However, the construction value associated with those permits has not decreased. Since March 1, the average number of weekly inspections has remained constant with no significant decrease or increase. However, the average turnaround for our inspections has decreased significantly. Our building, electrical, gas, mechanical inspections currently average next day service, while our plumbing and property standards inspections are on a 2-day turnaround. This is mostly because of staffing shortages within those two divisions. So the data for the latter part of this current fiscal year indicates a 10% reduction in the average number of building permits issued on a weekly basis, but those values have not decreased. Based on this information, the Coast Guard anticipates returning over $12 million to the general fund. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Roy Jones for a report on our current employee status and for any other questions related to the FY21 budget. Roy?
Mr. Chairman and council members, right now or in the next month, we will have lost we'll be losing approximately 8 employees, ranging from inspectors to some supervisory people, including myself. And I'll be retiring after 24 years. Get that in. But anyway, I wanted to let you know that. And then also, we had, right before all the crisis situation occurred back in March, we had, there had been a special committee appointed by the council to look into the codes, look in the codes department, and they recommended that we be able to hire 10 new additional people. Now, this was all before, like I say, the crisis occurred. All this had been agreed to, had been given approval by the Human Resource Department, and had been given approval by Finance, and we were ready to start advertising, and of course everything occurred. So just to let you know, we are, like I say, off about 10 people that we were not necessarily promised, but we thought we were going to give because everything pointed that way, and they were losing about 8 people now. So we're, as Bill mentioned, we are understaffed, but we are doing very well, I think, with the people we have. The things that we have put in place have compensated for that the best way we can. We're getting the work done, and as you heard from him, our revenues are still holding up relatively well. I'm a little bit surprised. We're getting that both from the financial information through March and April, and through Wade Hill taking a look at what's projected out there to be coming online as people, get more permits or whatever. As Bill said, with the house construction up the highest ever, we feel like even with the COVID, that our revenues might be a little bright spot in what's going on throughout the metro government right now.
Thanks very much. I'll start with Councilmember Druffel.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Herbert, I got to say, anytime I've made a request for any code violation in our area, you guys are on top of it, so thank you.
Thank you.
Under property standard violations, do you know how many repeat violations of the same location?
I tell you, I'm going to turn that over to Director Penn, and Bill Penn is the Assistant Director over the Property Standards Division, so I'm going to let Mr. Penn attempt to answer.
I would repeat that question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes. If you could repeat that question.
Yeah, under the property standard violations, I see about 22,000 in your metrics, which you anticipate again this next year. Of those 22,000, approximately how many are repeat violations?
That is not something I have at the ready. That would be something I'd have to get back to you. I don't have that information.
And that's fine. I think the follow-up question to that is, can we create a stronger consequence to minimize that repeat violation? I see that in our district, whether it's grass or some issue occurs and the homeowner decides it'll go away at some point. It's probably not a large cost, but I think from pure productivity for your staff, we'd like to know, number one, how many are repeat, and is there a way to, from our perspective, a way to minimize those repeat violations with a stronger consequence?
Councilman Druffel, this is Bill Herbert. We'll see if we can get the information on the number of repeat. We'll see if we can, I'm sure IT might be able to help us get that information. I can address the stronger consequence. Unfortunately, we are limited by the Constitution of the state of Tennessee to being able to limit our fines to $50. Now, that is $50 per day for each day of the violation. So that is by the Constitution, and I'm afraid we've looked at it a number of times, and some people have looked at trying to do the constitutional amendment. That has not passed. The one thing that we attempt to do is try to hold people in contempt of court, if at all possible. That ends up being up to the judge's discretion as to whether he implements a hearing on contempt.
Thank you very much. A quick side question: the $4.35 billion of recognizing new development. For what time frame is that?
That's our projected for this current fiscal year. So July 1 through June 30th of this fiscal year.
So in Davidson County, we'll get another $4.35 billion in terms of raw development. I realize it doesn't include assessment, property tax assessment, but at least we know it's going strong. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Suara.
Thank you, Chair. My question is on the questionnaire that was submitted, and it's question number 5. I was saying that is 5C, that is looking into prior audit recommendations. There's one in there that says that you should look into using a 6-month pilot to rent fleet. But what is interesting is that the audit did allude to the fact that there is downtime and then there's wasted man hours. And so I wanted to know why this has not been implemented, especially if the recommendation is that it will help us eliminate downtime and man hours. And why has it not been done? And is there a cost, and what is that? And do we know when we plan to try that out?
So thank you very much, Council Member. That program has been implemented. And so we took Council's suggestion on that. The Mayor's office was very kind, and the Finance Department for allowing us to go forward and implement that program. And we have done that. And as a result of that, it is a pilot program. It is on for a 6-month trial, but I would suggest that it is a result of that program that is the reason that our inspection times have gone down dramatically. So we are not wasting the time each day to try to find a vehicle for the inspectors to go do their inspections. The inspectors are able to come in at 7:30 when we open, jump into their vehicle, and go do their inspections. That is increasing each one of them's productivity exponentially, and I would suggest that that is the very reason that the time frame, the turnarounds for our inspections have dropped dramatically. So thank you.
Thank you. I read the notes to mean the recommendations that were not implemented. I'm glad that you're implementing it and that it's making a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Henderson.
Thank you, Chair Mendez. Director Herbert, I know we've spoken in past years, and I continue to kind of struggle a little bit with constituents needing enforcement on Sundays, particularly our, no construction on Sunday provision. And I see from the budget questionnaire that you have I believe six FTE currently unfilled. I didn't know if those will need to be filled particular to certain specialties, say, plumbing, electrical, and if that's a requirement you're going to need there. Or have you looked at, I know we've talked in the past about, or the larger council body, a flex team of sorts, or somebody to cover these Sundays and these, documenting so that our citizens don't have to become kind of codes enforcers and be taking pictures and kind of be put in that awkward position of being enforcers. Can you speak to how your unfilled FTEs might work with some sort of Sunday enforcement, and if you think that's possible under this budget? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Henderson. So our unfilled positions, and Mr. Jones, correct me if I'm wrong, these are positions where people have retired or have left the department for various reasons. So they are already specifically allocated, like their electrical inspectors or plumbing inspectors, et cetera. So they're already pre-allocated positions. I will agree with you that the work on Sunday seems to be becoming more and more of a problem for us. For us, we don't have inspectors working on Sunday, so we end up having to address the situation on Monday morning. We typically do that we try to give people a warning the first time, assuming they didn't know. The second time, we follow it almost 100% with a stop work order for some period of time. I understand that the weather's been tough on some folks, and with COVID, and they're going when they're going, and they're building, and it's happening on Sunday. We address it the very best that we can on Monday morning, unfortunately. And, I don't know how we would address the situation of having to keep some people on staff to address it on Sundays. I'm happy to engage that conversation with you in greater detail offline.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Councilmember Benedict, if you promise me a short question, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Herbert, your team does a fantastic job. I really appreciate the leadership that you provide to that team and to our contractors and folks throughout the city. If I understand correctly, you said that your department achieved a higher revenue than what you were budgeted and that your costs were under budget, which basically means to me you're generating revenue that's positive to the general fund. First, could you please confirm that? And secondly, how can we help you do more of that?
Well, thank you very much. Yes, I will confirm that. We are projecting that we will return more than $12 million to the general fund at the end of this fiscal year. Now, Councilmember, I certainly don't have a crystal ball and can't make any promises for FY21, but the indications that we have at this point is that while things may be slowing slightly, it's only very slightly, and our revenues seem to be staying in line with what we thought. I guess the only thing that I would say is that if there was anything that council could do to keep us staffed, that's our biggest shortfall right now. Is trying to meet the needs of the public, and it's all about what level of service that we're able to provide, and we try to do the very best we can. But basically, we're limited by the number of folks we have. I will say this: I want to thank the entire council very much for making the recommendations regarding our vehicles. Having this fleet on this pilot program has made a huge difference in us being able to get out there and do our jobs. So thank you for that. That's already been huge. I hope I addressed your question.
Thanks very much, Mr. Herbert. So that'll wrap up the hearing with codes. Mr. Herbert, like everybody else that we've talked to this week, we know that your team is out public-facing, interacting with the public. We know it's difficult under any circumstances, but with everything that's been going on, it's a extra difficulty. And please say thank you to your whole team on behalf of the council. We appreciate everything you do for Nashville.
We'll do that. Thank you very much, Chairman Mendez. We appreciate that very much.
All right. Thank you.